Brown eyes. 8 out of every 10 people on Earth carry them, yet their real superpower hides in plain sight. A melanin density so high it doubles as built-in sunscreen. In the iris, this dark pigment behaves like a blackout curtain, swallowing ultraviolet whole and sparing the retina the slow burn that triggers macular degeneration. Early humans walking the equatorial savanna paid no sunscreen tax, yet maintained crisp vision under brutal noon glare. The trade-off? That same melanin horde absorbs visible light as readily as UV, so brown irises reveal almost no color shift. Candlelight merely lifts a fleeting amber halo rather than rewriting the palette. Recent meta-analyses add a twist. The melanin shield may slightly raise lifetime cataract risk by heating the lens over decades, proof that every adaptation writes fine print in the margins of our biology. Blue eyes. Noon on the Scandinavian coast, 6,000 years ago. A single letter change in the HERC2 switch shuts down OCA2, having melanin production in one generation. The iris stroma, now almost clear, becomes a nanoscale sky. Short blue wavelengths ricochet through collagen fibers in pure Rayleigh scattering, painting the eye the color of horizon. With less pigment to block photons, more stray light reaches the retina, gifting sharper contrast under gray winter skies. The invoice arrives in summer. Blue irises transmit up to 5 times more UV, doubling photophobia rates and amplifying sun glare rebound. Anthropologists still debate whether this liability was offset by sexual selection. Rarity becomes beauty. Beauty accelerates spread. Yet the mechanism remains elegantly simple. Structure, not pigment, conjures the color. Green eyes. 2% of humanity holds the rarest compromise in ocular economics. Too little melanin for brown, too much for blue, plus a dash of yellow lipochrome that acts like a tinted lens. The result is a live balance sheet. Blue scatter provides the cool undertone. Lipochrome adds gold. Melanin darkens the mix to emerald. Forest-dwelling ancestors may have benefited from an iris that brightened under canopy shade, yet kept enough absorptive grit for sudden sunbeams. The price is volatility. Green eyes shift hue with every jump from indoor LED to noon sun, an optical chameleon that fascinates observers but offers no functional edge beyond moderate glare reduction. Folklore calls it witchcraft. Chemistry calls it a ratio of 0.3 milligrams of lipochrome per square millimeter of stroma. Hazel eyes. Picture a melanin gradient painted by a trembling hand. Central ring heavy with brown, mid-zone streaked with green, outer rim flecked in gold. This uneven deposition turns each hazel iris into a live spectroscope. Ambient light decides which band dominates. In morning shadow, the green scatter wins. Under tungsten bulbs, the lipochrome flares amber. Against a blue shirt, the brown ring swells. 5% of the world owns this adaptive chameleon, commonest along the blurred genetic boundary between European and West Asian populations. Evolutionarily, the payoff is flexibility, sufficient protection for Mediterranean summers, enough light capture for Atlantic winters, while the cost is predictability. Hazel eyes never look the same twice, a feature cameras love but border officers distrust. Amber eyes. Less than 5% of humans carry this wolf-like gaze, yet the color contains no mystery, only an overpayment in lipochrome. The yellow-red pigment saturates the stroma so completely that it overrides both blue scatter and brown melanin, locking the iris into a permanent copper coin that refuses to flip under any light. Because pheomelanin absorbs short wavelengths and reflects long ones, amber eyes glow under candlelight the way embers glow under wind, and affect our brains red as alert, predatory, confident. Functionally, the gain is nil. UV protection sits midway between brown and blue. Low light sensitivity is average. The advantage, if it exists, is social. Humans subconsciously associate the color with cunning hunters. A hard-wired shortcut that may have amplified sexual selection among Proto-Eurasian steppe populations. Gray eyes. If blue eyes are sky, gray eyes are storm cloud, even less melanin, but larger collagen fibers that scatter every wavelength in Mi diffusion, washing the iris in gunmetal neutrality. At 3% global frequency, commonest in northern Balkans and Baltic coasts, this is the rarest stable color and the most light-sensitive in dim climates. The same diffusion that grants steel-like steadiness also projects an emotional flatline. Gray irises reveal almost no pupil dilation Q, earning cultural tags of detachment or wisdom. Biologically, the trade-off is Stark's superb performance under overcast skies, but the lowest innate UV buffer of any color, forcing either squinting or hat-wearing under high-altitude sun. Black eyes. Call them ultra-brown, melanin density so extreme the iris becomes a light, devouring hole. Across equatorial Africa, South and Southeast Asia, this phenotype dominates because it pays the highest sunscreen premium. Up to 99% of incoming UV is intercepted before it reaches the lens. Visual clarity remains rock-steady from Saharan noon to monsoon dusk. The pupil's edge is nearly invisible, giving the gaze an unreadable intensity bonus that cultures routinely equate with authority. The hidden fee is thermal. All that absorbed energy slightly warms ocular tissue, correlating with earlier onset of age-related cataracts in several longitudinal studies. Protection now, clouded lens later, evolution's oldest bargain. Heterochromia. One face, two palettes, a mosaic error during the first 6 weeks of gestation delivers uneven melanin cargo to each iris or to sectors of a single iris. Complete, sectoral or central, the pattern affects fewer than 1 in 100 people and almost never impairs vision. Instead, it advertises the flexibility of the pigment code itself. Neither adaptation nor defect. Heterochromia is simply developmental noise, akin to a unique serial number stamped on the collagen threads. Historically interpreted as mark of sorcery, modern genetics treats it as a benign reminder that symmetry is a goal, not a guarantee, in human development. Green eyes. Only 2 in every 100 people hold this shade, yet the recipe is surprisingly simple. Start with a blue eye base, low melanin, then stir in a microdose of yellow lipochrome. The chemistry is so precise that a 0.1 milligram tilt toward more melanin flips the iris to hazel, while a fraction less tips it back to gray-blue. Forest ancestors may have gained a midday shade filter without losing dawn-level sensitivity, but the real engine of persistence is probably sexual selection. Rarity itself became attractive, propagating a color that offers no measurable survival edge beyond moderate glare reduction. The eye appears to change color because the yellow pigment absorbs blue wavelengths indoors and reflects them under full-spectrum sun, a living mood ring coded by 1 enzyme and 1 promoter switch. Hazel eyes. 5% of humans carry a melanin gradient instead of a monochrome, a bronze ring around the pupil, a green midzone, a gold outer rim. Because the pigment is laid down unevenly, ambient light decides which band dominates. Under LED panels, the scatter of scant melanin wins and the eye looks olive. Against a sunset, the lipochrome layer ignites into whiskey amber. Beneath storm clouds, the brown ring expands, giving the illusion of darker eyes. No other color responds so actively to its environment, making hazel the Swiss Army knife of irises. Adequate UV buffering for equatorial summers, enough light capture for North Sea winters, and the aesthetic price of never looking the same in 2 photographs. Amber eyes. Less than 5% of the world owns this copper glare, yet the formula is monotonously stable. Flood the stroma with lipochrome, add almost no melanin, lock the ratio for life. The result is a honey disk that refuses to shift under candlelight, camera flash, or cloud cover. Because pheomelanin absorbs short blue waves and reflects long red ones, the iris glows like heated metal, an effect humans read as alert, predatory, confident. Functionally, the gain is neutral. UV protection sits midway between brown and blue. Low light sensitivity is average. The payoff is social. Studies in facial first impression tasks rate amber-eyed faces higher on traits vigilant and decisive, a hardwired shortcut that may have nudged sexual selection on ancient steppe hunting grounds. Gray eyes. 3 out of every 100 people carry storm cloud irises, rarer than green, rarer than amber. The stroma holds even less melanin than blue eyes, but the collagen fibers are larger, scattering every wavelength in mi-diffusion rather than Rayleigh blue alone. The product is a gunmetal wash that can flash silver under flash, slate under cloud, even a faint sage when blood vessels reflect through the thin pigment layer. Northern Balkan and Baltic populations show the highest frequency, consistent with a model where diffuse light needed every photon captured yet UV index remained low. The trade-off is emotional opacity. Gray irises reveal almost no pupil dilation Q, earning cultural tags of detachment or wisdom while forcing the bearer to invest in sunglasses the moment they travel south of 45 degrees latitude. Black eyes. Call them ultra-brown, melanin density so extreme that only a sliver of incoming light escapes absorption. Across equatorial latitudes, this phenotype dominates because it pays the highest premium in biological sunscreen. Up to 99% of UV is intercepted before it reaches the lens. Visual performance stays uniform from Saharan noon to monsoon dusk, and the unreadable surface gives the gaze an intensity bonus that cultures routinely equate with authority. The hidden fee is thermal. All that absorbed energy slightly elevates ocular temperature, correlating with earlier cataract onset in several longitudinal cohorts. Protection now for lens cloud later, evolution's oldest bargain, still underwriting the eyesight of 5 billion people. Heterochromia. Fewer than 1 in 100 faces display this mosaic, 2 irises of divergent hue, or a single iris split by a sector of contrasting color. The cause is a localized disruption of melanin delivery during the 6th week of gestation, sometimes a somatic mutation, sometimes a vascular accident, rarely a marker of broader syndrome. Vision remains untouched. The effect is purely informational, a living barcode that advertises the flexibility of pigment code itself. Historically read as sign of witchcraft, royalty, or dual soul occupancy, modern genetics treats it as benign developmental noise, proof that symmetry is a target, not a guarantee in human development. Every eye color is a receipt for the environmental invoice our ancestors paid. Melanin for ultraviolet, clarity for glare, rarity for sexual attention. The next time someone asks why eyes vary, you can hand them the ledger: protection versus sensitivity, pigment versus physics, ancient Africa versus Ice Age Europe written in every glance. Drop your color below with the trade-off you now know it carries, and subscribe for more no-fluff breakdowns of the biology hiding in plain sight.